Hey guys, welcome to our last Real Solutions lesson before spring break. In this lesson, I'm actually going to be answering several questions that were submitted by you guys. And so hopefully you know by now that I've set up this anonymous survey where you can submit your questions. Thank you so much to those of you who submitted questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer them here. I know that it takes away the anonymous nature of it, but if I try to answer one of your questions and you're like, whoa, that didn't answer it at all, or I didn't understand your question properly, please reach out to me. A lot of these are better answered in conversation anyways, but I am going to do my best, okay? So some of this might not be relevant to you, like if you don't have the same questions, but some of it will. So yeah, take what you need, and I think some of it will certainly apply to all of us. Starting out, I want to talk and answer, there's actually several questions submitted about the topic of self-harm. Another topic that not super fun to talk about, but important to answer these questions, and so I'll do my best with this, okay? So, question, what can you do instead of self-harm that actually helps? And please do not say, this is what the question said, please don't just say snap a rubber band on your wrist. I won't say that, okay? I will say that I do not have any personal experience with self-harm, but I do have a couple of close friends who do, and so I reached out to them to kind of help me answer these questions around it. One of my friends said that a really good replacement for them was working out and going on runs and training. And they found that was very helpful in overcoming that. They also said that it was really helpful when they felt tempted to just find someone they could hang out with. They would, text a bunch of friends, find someone who they could go spend time with. Getting out of their own house or their own room was really helpful. And that would often allow the temptation to pass. I know that will not work for everyone, but it is what helped my friend. Overall, with this issue of self-harm, what needs to happen is you need to kind of face the feelings that are leading to it. And I know that's really challenging to do, but it is ultimately kind of what is going to help overcome that issue, is facing the feelings behind it, whether that is talking about it with someone, which I know with self-harm can sometimes be difficult because it can be really difficult to even verbalize what you're feeling. But if you can talk with someone and be open about it, that can help a lot. If you can try journaling those feelings, writing them out, that can help a lot. Even just that idea, like we talked a couple weeks ago about having someone who can just be present with you, right? Where you're like, I can't even really necessarily verbalize what I'm feeling, but I'm struggling and I need someone to just be there for me. That can help a lot. I also know music can help a lot for some. So again, it's not always about replacing that with something else, but finding ways to face those feelings. And guys, if you're struggling with this, I feel for you. It's a tough one. I would love to try and help you with that. Like I said, I have friends. One actually will text me when they are feeling tempted with this, and even just getting it out in the open can be helpful. So if you're struggling with it, please don't be afraid to reach out to me or one of your youth leaders or someone you trust. Your parents can also be great for that too, okay? Here's a question I can't answer, okay, that was submitted. Can God still love me if I self-harm? Yes, absolutely, 100%. That is one of the most wonderful promises in the Bible. Hard to believe sometimes, but we are promised in the Bible that no sin, no behavior, no action, no thought can separate us from God's love, right? Like He is always going to love us. The Bible tells us that even while we were still sinners, God loved us enough to send His Son to die for us. Okay, so I know it's hard to believe sometimes, but yes, if you're struggling with self-harm or any other issue or addiction, God still loves you very, very much, and I know that is true. Someone asked, how do you quit self-harm, or can you quit alone? So again, this relates kind of to that first question, facing those feelings. Can you quit alone? I would say that maybe you can. For me, in my own personal experience with addiction, I could not. I needed someone. I needed accountability. I needed to get it all out in the open. I needed to bring everything to light, and that is when I began to experience a lot of freedom, is when it was not secret anymore. So I really think that you need to have people, and again, I'm willing to be that person for you if you trust me with that, where you can be accountable and just, not have it a secret anymore. Okay, and then, does self-harming to cope make me an attention seeker? Great question. No, I don't think so. I think that, it is a way of coping with really difficult feelings. And so I don't think you're an attention seeker. I know that it kind of has this stigma around it of people using it to get attention, which is unfortunate. But yeah, if it's a coping mechanism, don't feel like you're just trying to get attention. It's a way of coping, like this person asking even said. And I understand that it's very difficult, but no, I don't think it makes you an attention seeker. And I would, again, be so happy if you would ask for help with that and bring it into the open. This is an issue that is, hard to just answer in a video. It needs further conversation, and I would highly encourage you, if you're struggling, to reach out. And I'd love to talk about that more with you, and we can kind of find the unique ways that can help for you. A few questions on getting professional help, so counseling or therapy, that kind of thing. One question, is therapy or professional help worth it? I would say absolutely it is. I have seen a counselor for, I think, 2 to 3 years now, and I found it quite beneficial. The thing I found most helpful about it is that it is like just a completely safe space to talk about things, right? Like when you talk to people you already know, there are kind of, you can feel reservations about that, right? Because you still have to see that person and you know that person. It can be difficult. Whereas talking to a counselor, they only know you in that setting, and so you can just be completely free to talk about anything. And that was what I found most worth it about getting counseling. If you feel like you could use counseling, but you're not sure, I can help you I have contacts, counselors that you can set up appointments with. If you are worried about the financial aspect, the church has money that can help you cover that, okay? So don't let any of those things get in the way. If you feel like you could benefit from talking to a counselor, please let me know. No one else is going to know. I'm not going to tell anyone, and we can set that up for you. Someone asked, does professional help go on your record? Okay, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by record, but let me try to answer this as best I can. If you go through having insurance or things like that, professional help will likely go on your medical records, but your medical records are highly private. It's even difficult for if you switch doctors for them to transfer the medical records. They're very, very private. So if you're worried about if I'm trying to get a job, is my employer going to be able to see that I got counseling or something like that? No, they will not see that. Counselors themselves are not allowed to share your information with anyone unless they are legally obligated. And in that situation, it's if they know that you are being abused or if there's danger to you, that they would be legally required to share it. But other than that, it is completely private. Of course, if you ask me to refer you to a counselor, I'm not going to tell anyone. Some of you have done that already, and no one else in the youth group knows about it, okay? It'll just be me and the person who covers our finances in the church, and they're not going to tell anyone either, okay? So that stuff stays highly private. You don't have to worry about that for the future. Someone asked about relapse, okay? How do you deal with a relapse? So a relapse would be if you're struggling with an addiction and you go any amount of time where you clean from it and then you go back to it, okay? So you relapse into that addiction. How do you deal with that? Okay, the best advice I could say is when you relapse, the temptation is to indulge in it, right? You say, well, I've already messed up, so I might as well, get my fix while I can, that kind of thing. I would say if you relapse, you need to get out of that as quickly as possible. You need to admit it to someone. You need to ask for help. You need to go back for help. You need to get yourself unstuck as quickly as possible. And that's hard, and that takes a lot of humility. But it needs to happen, okay? So if you have gone a certain amount of time where you have not given into an addiction and then it comes back, don't let yourself get stuck in there. Reach out for help as quickly as you can. If you have an accountability partner, make sure you admit it to them as quickly as possible. Again, bringing those things into the light, right? Not letting them remain secret is the key to breaking out of this stuff. And then a few questions on asking for help. Someone asked, what if you're too scared or ashamed or guilty or in denial to ask for help? Do you just wait for the breaking point? Yeah, that's a good question. Unfortunately, that's usually how it goes, right? Is we usually wait too long to ask for help. That's why I've continued through this series to encourage you guys to ask for help before you get to that breaking point or that rock bottom point. It's really hard, and I get it. It's terrifying to ask for help a lot of the time. But the further you get stuck in this stuff, the worse it gets, the more damage it does to others around us and ourselves, right? It can become very, very devastating if you get to that point of rock bottom or a breaking point. So I get it. It's scary. I continue to encourage you to reach out. Certainly you will not experience any judgment from me, okay? I've been in those places before. I know that it's difficult, and I want to help you, okay? I love you guys, if you haven't realized that yet. Just like God always loves you, I love you too, and I want to help you. I don't want you to be scared or ashamed to ask for help, but I get it. It is tough, okay? But if you can, don't wait too long to ask for help. Someone asked, why should I bother asking for a help? Am I wasting people's time? No, okay? No, you're not wasting anyone's time. Interestingly, and the beautiful thing about being a church or a youth group where we're Christians and we're together is that it becomes a blessing when we can help each other. Certainly for me, for those who have reached out to help for me, I'm more than happy to help. I'm sad that you are struggling with something, but the fact that you've reached out for help, the fact that I can contribute to helping you brings me actually a lot of joy and a lot of blessing, okay? And I know it's the same for your youth leaders. I'm sure it's the same for your parents, right? You're not wasting people's time. It's easy to feel like you are a burden, but I think that in most cases, we're the ones who feel like we're the burden, but the people helping us do not feel that way at all, okay? So no, don't use that as an excuse, right? That you just feel like a burden or you're wasting people's time. We want to help you. We want to help you get better from this stuff. Someone asked me to mention, and I'll throw this in really quickly. It's not a question, but they just wanted to mention that alcohol and pornography are not just guy problems. Okay, so it's usually, right, like we have the idea in our head that pornography and lust is only a guy problem or alcohol is only a guy problem. Girls struggle with that too, and so if you're a girl and you're struggling with this and feeling like you're weird or strange or different because of that, you're not, okay? It's less common in girls, but it certainly is an issue for girls as well, so don't feel ashamed about that, and thank you to whoever mentioned that. That's a good thing to remember. All right, so one last question here, and this kind of will sum up what we've been talking about, I think, a little bit. The question is, am I weak for struggling with mental health? This is a yes and no question, okay? Let me explain that. In terms of how our world sees weakness and strength and, how our culture defines it, are you weak for struggling with mental health? No, you are not, okay? You need to know that. Some of the strongest people I know struggle with mental health. And the reason that I see so much strength in them is because, these battles that go on in our brain are really difficult. And to get up each day and face them, that takes a lot of strength, okay? And you know what? There are many of us who struggle with mental health. And I would say that no, you are not weak for struggling with mental health. But in a different way, yes, you are. And that's a good thing. Because the Bible gives us this kind of backwards definition, right, where it's like, in our weakness, we should boast in our weakness, because in our weakness, that's when God shows his strength. That's where we learn to rely on God for his strength and for his guidance, right? And God wants us to rely on him and to need him for his strength. So are you weak for struggling with mental health? In that sense, yes, you are. And allow that weakness to cause you to go to God for strength. Go to him in prayer. Bring these anxieties and these struggles to him and lean on him in everything, right? Really, in terms of what the Bible calls weakness, we are all weak. And the sooner we admit it, the better, because when we admit it, we recognize our need for a Savior. We recognize our need for Jesus. We recognize that we need God's strength. So recognize that your mental health, yeah, it's a weakness in some ways, but allow that weakness to push you towards God, because he gives us strength to face these things. Listen, guys, just to conclude, all this stuff is really messy. Right? It's not easy. There's not clear answers all the time. Even in our own lives and our own mental health, we go through ups and downs all the time. At the end of the day, what I have discovered is the solution is that our relationship with God needs to be number one. Okay, that is key. Our relationship with God is the way to true hope, right? There's no quick fixes with this. Like I've said, it requires conversation, it requires relationship. Ultimately, it requires a relationship with God that brings us true hope, right? It's easy for us to feel weak and useless and ashamed, but in Christ, in Jesus, we have identity, we have freedom, we have strength, we have courage, we have community, and we have hope. And that over and over again is what we need to come back to. We are not always going to understand God's plan. We are not always going to understand what is going on in our brains. But at the end of the day, our relationship with God can be that foundation that we can stay in and that we can rely on, and that brings us hope. So I'd encourage you in all of this, guys. I know it's difficult, but place God and your relationship with him as the number one priority in your life. And that is going to help you get through a lot of this stuff. Okay, thank you again. I appreciate you asking questions. I will continue to say, just reach out to me, please, if you are struggling or if you have more questions about this. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to answer more questions. And I will see you guys either in video form or in person sometime during spring break or after spring break when Ignite starts up again.